A 360-day Windows 10 Redstone 5 Enterprise 1809 LTSC LTSB OS Build version 17763.107 2019 long-term servicing or service channel or branch evaluation Microsoft Developer Network MSDN 90-day trial period evaluation instruction and information. In it, it tells you you can extend this to 360 days, almost an entire year. Requirements: 1 gigahertz processor or an SoC processor. That's how they're terming it. I'm going to read it back verbatim here. You need 1 to 2 gigabytes of RAM, depending on 32 or 64-bit version. The direct implication here is it's going to use 2 gigabytes of RAM, bare minimum, just for the operating system. Make it 4 if you want to be better off, minimum. The operating system takes up 16 gigabytes if you use the 32-bit version, and 20 gigabytes for the 64-bit version, just for hard drive space for it. That means you could partition a drive to contain, let's say, 32 gigs of space for the operating system and all acceptable patches for it, for this very minimalized, stripped down, maybe even higher performance version that's for point-of-sale terminals and bank machines that will work. Hard drive space is pretty minimal considering what you're doing here. And you can put it on a first partition and run everything as a portable app or install everything to your second partition and keep it from breaking itself as easy. It requires a graphics card that can do 800 by 600 and it has to have a version 1 WDDM driver, and it needs to be able to tolerate DirectX 9 or later, period. So DirectX 9 is minimum requirement. Direct links will be listed below for the download page and individual ISO files. This will work under English, Chinese, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Spanish, and it also allows for optional updates. The 64-bit and 32-bit version, which is called x86 in that case, also says FRE_EN.US, United States English version primary. You can also get other versions off the download page. You can extend the evaluation period for this up to 360 days, not 365. And this is the process you do. You download the ISO file as a MSDN, Microsoft Development Network, evaluation trial period, 90-day timer limited version. The reason for the 90-day timer also includes that it will reboot a certain number of times in a week, like once every day or something. You run slmgr.vbs/rearm command on the 90th day before a reboot to extend the evaluation time another 90 days. And you do this another 3 times maximum every 90 days. You get a total of 360 days usage time. You get to wipe it on the last day there. I recommend that if you want to do this, you have an entire partition that's just big enough to hold the operating system to keep it tamed, and alter it. You're going to have to look up all the alterations to this to make it to where it does not rewrite the drive very much. That means you can put it onto a really fast solid-state drive, tell it it's on a solid-state drive, tell it to, again, not write anything to the drive, and use a normal electromechanical hard drive over here that's slower for any junk it wants to do, so you can scrag that every day, so you start over with it being as clean as possible. The idea here is to keep it from self-destructing at all, and turn off every update, so it just sits there and works for 360 days because you keep rearming it. Again, this is within parameters. It's completely acceptable. You're doing an evaluation period on it. They give you 3 months, but you can extend it to almost 12. And again, every 360 days, you erase it. Now, if you do it as an entire partition, you could image the partition back, and that might also start the rearming timing system again. Or you may have to reinstall it by doing the installer. Just make sure you keep track of how you do it. Why would someone do this? The regular Windows 10 semi-annual channel, or SAC, gives you 6 to 18 months of support and sets upgrades accessible to a new version every year, and essentially charges you money for it for a period of time. Meanwhile, the evaluation version lets you use it for just short of a year, which means you have to plan a specific day where you completely erase that drive. I mean, it has to be totally erased, and then reinstall it or dump it back onto it by whatever method. And you can even set up a scheduled timer to do that SLC conversion every 90 days, exactly on time, so you don't have to mess with it. And then have a new timer come up just the day before it, like 359 days, saying, warning, you have to back up all your data to the D drive or whatever, or just use portable apps installed over here only so you don't have to install anything. And make sure you have a list of installs you do every time you do this, and then go through and tell your computer to boot off the thumb drive or boot off the second drive, erase this thing completely, reset it by doing an install or just dumping the files on, restart, and rinse and repeat. Regular Windows that you pay money for has a death date to it. It wants to update itself. It wants you to be part of a system and an ecosystem that Microsoft Corporation messes with. And then X number of months into it, they stop doing support for the hardware. They stop doing support for this, that, or the other thing. They play games with you to make you update it or upgrade it, just like they did with Windows 8 and 7 and Windows XP. Meanwhile, this version is so stripped down that you can make it, if you want to mess with it and follow guides, unable to even bring up the subject of screwing up. Mandatory auto shutdown reboot problem fix. This is the other thing that they do with this to induce you to pay money for the full version, which then again opens up the floodgates for Microsoft poking around on the system. This extremely minimalized rip down version for banks, it's not really ripped down, but it's cleaned up a bit, makes it harder for them to get in because there's less to dick with. And if you use portable programs, it doesn't even know you're running a program that it doesn't like. It doesn't know that you're not running Internet Explorer. It doesn't know that you're running competing software or an operating system on another partition. It's not able to poke around as much. To get rid of the shutdown problem, you have to run Regedit. You go to HKey Local Machine System, CurrentControlSet Services, Sppsvc, SPP service. Right-click on it and modify it and change it from the value for the default from 4 to 2. Or you can just make a reg file, which I'll type up tomorrow below, and you just double-click it, or have it automatically install itself right after you do it, and have it reapply again every 90 days. The reason for this is it makes it a full-blown operating system that behaves itself and doesn't mess with you, lets you evaluate things, and it doesn't require that much from you. Yes, it might require that you let it connect to the server or not. I don't know. And again, that. On the full version you pay money for, or on these evaluation versions, all of them can be told by Microsoft Corporation to just deregister. This happened to somebody on an airplane when it decided it was off by literally an hour because he was in an airplane and he was changing time zones. It invalidated his operating system while he was typing up a review of it on the computer, and turned off his Microsoft Office and his Microsoft Windows and said you have a pirated version when you don't. Microsoft Corporation is not known for security of any kind. Again, if you download software from them, they don't sign their own code. When you look at it, when you download any of their updates, when you click on the security part, it says this is not signed or has a certificate. It's a blank certificate. Meanwhile, half the viruses on the planet use a certificate. Now, there's a logic behind it, but it is kind of ironic. A company that's notorious for a Department of Justice decision that they're a monopoly, and them being notorious for being a virus vending website, essentially, or their computers being extremely friendly to viruses, it avoiding doing really basic security signatures that it demands of every other company. So no, I don't trust them. Yes, I own a fully valid version of it because my computer comes with an OEM install. But I turn it into, at my honor, a Windows 7 version that does the same tricks. Why? Because it forces me to clean and reinstall the computer every year, although I've made it to where I don't have to recently because I had a bunch of shit going on, like everybody else did for the last year or so. But every year it forces you, if you do this, to get all your ducks in order, erase it, and reinstall it. It also makes it to where, in the process, you're testing the hard drive if it's bad. You can use a high-speed hard drive for the main drive, because you make it to where it never rewrites itself. You can even if you want to learn, make it to where the operating system cannot self-destruct. It'll just refuse to work after 360 days or 90 if you don't rearm it. But it allows you to have power over the computer instead of the other way around. But anyway, by changing one setting in the registry and then running the rearm utility from SL Manager, service license or serial license or whatever, this forces the thing to shut up and work. And yes, I'll mention this. Besides the downloads from everything, there is a 3.94 gigabyte file here you're talking about. And there is a 2021 full update for this thing that's been put out by Microsoft, although I recommend you use the one that's older. The Redstone 2019 one doesn't have that many differences. The updated version has better security. You can have it do updates for security easily. The build there that's 1776, 3.1971, really easy to remember if I just said it and got it over with. That version, there's a version of it that has a defect in it that you can try downloading. I'll include archive-only links to a website, because I'm not going to directly link to it. You can evaluate it if you want to. There's a version Microsoft put out that was supposed to go to Compaq or HP or Dell or whatever company. I think it's just Dell and HP these days they do this for. That's an evaluation version that does not have a timer on it. It's an evaluation version that doesn't let you have certain features. It just turns off some shit. This may be more in line with what you want. It's for point-of-sale terminals. And that one will also work. And yes, you can update it and make it run DirectX whatever and play video games on it. So you can build a gaming console. It's meant for limited usage for running, it says a certain number of installs or apps at the same time, which means you can use it for a single purpose. The reason for that is it lets you, it simplifies memory management to where it's only contending with one thing. If you want it to be a web browser, you can make it a web browser. If you want to make it a video game, fine. It'll do 2 or 3 or something like that. The limitation for it seems like an encumbrance, but it's an advantage because it gives the operating system the ability to customize things. There's also a version of that for the other one, and those are mostly hacks. This is sort of pre-hacked. And it's available if you want to get away with grabbing it off of a website. The website has a set of links where they want you to go through a dialog, and it shows you the archive or the cached version of that file. And it's slightly smaller or larger, but it's slightly better performance for one thing or another. Hey, it's a Windows 10 install that you don't have to pay for. And you can evaluate whether it's your type of, cup of tea. It'll be archive.today or whatever, only because that keeps it from being able to infect your website, your computer, because the website it leads to does a bunch of pop-ups, and I don't trust it. Again, buyer beware. Again, you can download directly from Microsoft, softwaredownload.microsoft.com, SG, and then grab these builds, and they work, mostly. And again, it's mostly just ripped down. If your idea of performance is to get rid of every annoying thing about the operating system, this is 90% of the work done for you. And there are guides on optimizing it. And again, it works for 360 days, and then if it's going to screw up, if it stops working, it's about the time you should be erasing your machine anyway, and it's a good thing to get into practice for. And again, you can get some that are even more minimized. It's a good basis, maybe? Don't know. But I'm sticking with Windows 7, and I'm happy with it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck.